There are moments in life when events seem too perfectly aligned to be coincidence. When the external world mirrors your inner state so precisely that you can feel a mysterious intelligence at play. These moments are not accidents, they are whispers from the unseen order of existence, guiding your awareness toward deeper meaning. Synchronicity is the bridge between the visible and the invisible, the meeting point where psyche and cosmos speak the same language. When you begin to awaken to this language, reality itself starts to feel alive. Every symbol, encounter, or repetition carries a message. Not from logic, but from intuition. A song you randomly hear, a number that keeps appearing, a stranger's words echoing your private thoughts. These are not random events. They are signs of resonance between your inner vibration and the world's greater design. Life speaks in patterns, and those who listen discover that destiny communicates in silence and subtlety. Synchronicity doesn't obey the rules of cause and effect, it flows through meaning. It reveals that everything is interconnected beyond time and space. The world is not happening to you. It is happening with you. Each meaningful coincidence is an invitation to remember that consciousness and creation are partners in an ongoing dance. The more aware you become, the more fluent you grow in this universal tongue. To decode this language, you must first cultivate stillness. The noise of constant reasoning drowns out subtle signals. Meaning is not shouted, it is whispered in the rhythm of your experiences. When you pause long enough to feel rather than analyze, you begin to sense the thread that connects moments once thought separate. What appears random is often the universe arranging circumstances to lead you back to alignment. This is not superstition but participation, an active engagement with the living field of reality. Synchronicity invites humility, to trust what cannot be explained, to surrender control, and to live in dialogue with mystery. When you open yourself to that mystery, you are no longer a passive observer of life, you become a conscious participant in its unfolding narrative. The language of synchronicity does not demand understanding, it requires presence. It speaks in feeling, intuition, and timing. And when you learn to listen, you realize that the universe was never silent. It was always speaking, waiting for you to recognize that you, too, are part of its conversation. There are moments in life when reality bends in ways that logic cannot explain. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and their message arrives moments later. You stumble upon a book that holds the very sentence your soul needed to read. These are not mere coincidences. They are meaningful intersections where your inner world and the outer reality briefly synchronize to reveal a deeper order. Synchronicity is not a trick of chance, it is the universe speaking the language of alignment. It shows that thought, emotion, and energy ripple outward, meeting life halfway in the form of mirrored events. In these moments you sense that life is not random. Something vast and intelligent seems to weave through the fabric of existence. Something that responds to the quiet movement of your consciousness. The coincidences that appear at first accidental begin to form a pattern, one that reflects your state of being with uncanny precision. It is as though your inner dialogue projects itself onto the screen of reality, inviting you to pay attention. What you hold within begins to echo around you. Your thoughts, intentions, and emotional frequencies draw experiences that mirror your invisible landscapes. The world becomes a living symbol, reflecting back what your awareness is ready to understand. Meaningful coincidences arise most often when you are at a threshold, moments of decision, transformation, or uncertainty. They appear as markers on the path, confirming that your unseen intentions are already shaping events in the visible world. When you follow these signs with trust rather than skepticism, they lead you closer to authenticity, to the truth of what your soul is calling you toward. Synchronicity does not manipulate outcomes, it reveals alignment. It shows that when your inner purpose resonates with the rhythm of the whole, the universe rearranges itself to support that alignment. Yet, to perceive synchronicity, one must cultivate a different kind of seeing. The analytical mind dismisses what it cannot measure, reducing mystery to coincidence. But the intuitive mind listens beneath the surface, sensing that meaning is not a product of logic but of resonance. The world is symbolic, a mirror of consciousness rather than a machine of random events. What you call coincidence is often your intuition, guiding you through a hidden conversation with life itself. Each encounter, each repetition, each chance meeting is a page in the dialogue between your inner and outer worlds. Meaningful coincidences do not demand belief, they demand awareness. They invite you to slow down and notice the invisible threads connecting moments that once seemed separate. When you learn to read these threads, you realize that life has always been communicating with you. Through symbols, patterns, and timing, you begin to trust that there is intelligence in the unfolding, a kind of spiritual choreography that places you exactly where you need to be, with whom you need to be, at the precise moment you are meant to arrive. There is humility in recognizing that the universe participates in your journey. You are not an isolated fragment moving through chaos, but an active participant in a larger harmony. When your thoughts align with your truth, reality mirrors that clarity. When your emotions are fragmented, the world reflects confusion. Synchronicity reveals that your life is not happening to you but through you. Every meaningful coincidence is a glimpse into the invisible harmony between your consciousness and creation itself. It is a reminder that the universe is alive, responsive, and aware, and that you, too, are woven into its design, part of a conversation that never truly ends. The outer world and the inner world are not separate realms, but reflections of a single living intelligence. What appears as external circumstance often mirrors the invisible patterns of your psyche, revealing the unseen architecture of thought, feeling, and belief. Every encounter, every challenge, every coincidence carries a subtle correspondence to something unfolding within you. The events of life are like symbols in a dream, images projected from the depths of consciousness, inviting you to recognize yourself in everything you experience. The world, in this sense, becomes a mirror so precise that even its chaos reflects your forgotten order. When you begin to see life this way, the distinction between inner and outer begins to dissolve. What you once regarded as random or separate starts to feel deeply personal, charged with meaning. The landscape of your mind spills into the landscape of your reality. Thoughts become weather patterns, emotions become seasons, and circumstances form in resonance with your inner vibration. It is not that the world merely reacts to you, nor that you control it through will. Rather, both you and the world are expressions of the same underlying intelligence, dancing in harmony through the language of synchronicity. Every soul projects its inner light and shadow upon the canvas of existence. The people who enter your life, the situations you attract, the opportunities that arise or fade, all are shaped by your internal state of consciousness. When you carry resentment, life seems to offer endless mirrors of conflict. When you embody gratitude, the same world begins to soften, revealing paths and possibilities that were always present but unseen. The psyche does not stop at the boundaries of the body. It extends into the fabric of reality itself, weaving together inner experience and outer manifestation in a seamless whole. In moments of heightened awareness, you can feel this unity. The air around you seems charged with presence, every sound and movement synchronized with your state of being. It is as if reality breathes with you, responding to your awareness in real time. These moments are not mystical exaggerations. They are glimpses of truth before the mind intervenes with separation. The world and the self are not two things. They are reflections of one consciousness perceiving itself from different angles. When this realization deepens, the boundary between observer and observed begins to fade, and what remains is participation, a state in which you and life move as one. This unity calls for responsibility. To know that the world mirrors the psyche is to understand that transformation begins within. You cannot demand peace from a world you approach with turmoil, nor expect clarity from circumstances shaped by confusion. The environment reflects the vibration you offer. Healing your inner world inevitably reshapes the outer one, not by manipulation but through natural resonance. When you integrate your shadow, reconcile your contradictions, and align with your authentic self, the world rearranges itself to match that inner harmony. Reality ceases to feel hostile or indifferent. It becomes intimate, responsive, alive. To live with this awareness is to enter a dialogue with existence itself. You stop fighting the reflections and begin to read them. You recognize that each event, whether joyful or painful, is a message from the same intelligence that breathes through you. The outer world becomes a sacred mirror for your evolution, guiding you toward wholeness through every experience. And in that recognition, the illusion of separation dissolves, revealing that there was never a divide between you and the world, only a forgetting of the unity that has always been. The ordinary mind seeks comfort in logic, tracing every outcome to a cause, every event to a preceding action. It builds its understanding of life through the structure of time, past leading to present, present shaping future. Yet there are moments when this structure collapses, when something unfolds that cannot be explained by the sequence of cause and effect. These are the moments when meaning overrides mechanism, when the invisible intelligence behind life reveals itself through symbolism rather than logic. The pattern is not linear, it is woven in depth, not distance. Synchronicity operates in this field, a realm where events are bound together not by physical causation but by significance. In such moments, two seemingly unrelated experiences converge with uncanny precision, as though orchestrated by an unseen order. A dream reveals the very truth that a stranger voices the next day. A sudden intuition aligns with an external event that confirms its reality. These intersections do not follow the predictable flow of cause and effect. They transcend it. Meaning becomes the connective tissue between inner and outer, between thought and event. What links them is not logic but resonance, not time but timelessness. The universe, in its infinite intelligence, arranges circumstances not to prove causality but to reveal coherence, the subtle harmony between consciousness and creation. To grasp this, one must step beyond the boundaries of the analytical mind. Logic divides, categorizes, and demands evidence. Intuition perceives through wholeness and recognition. When an event feels charged with significance, it is not your imagination. It is the soul recognizing itself in the fabric of reality. Meaning is the signature of the unseen order, revealing that life communicates symbolically. Just as dreams speak through images and metaphors, the outer world uses synchronicity to speak to the waking mind in its own symbolic language. A coincidence, then, is not an accident. It is a message encoded in experience, reminding you that something beyond reason is guiding your path. In this field of meaning, time becomes fluid. The past, present, and future interact as layers of a single tapestry rather than as steps in a sequence. An event from tomorrow can echo into your thoughts today, just as memories can reshape the future through the energy they carry. The cause and effect model cannot contain such mysteries because it views reality as mechanical. But life is not a machine. It is an organism, conscious, creative, and interconnected. The universe is not bound by the linearity the human mind clings to. It dances in patterns of correspondence, drawing together what belongs through symbolic gravity rather than physical law. When you begin to live with awareness of this truth, your relationship to uncertainty transforms. You stop seeking control and start cultivating attunement. You no longer ask, "Why did this happen?" but rather, "What does this mean for my becoming?" Life ceases to be a series of disconnected accidents and reveals itself as a living manuscript written in the ink of significance. Every encounter, every delay, every repetition carries a note of communication from the unseen dimension that moves through all things. To live beyond causality is not to abandon reason but to expand it, to include the sacred logic of meaning alongside the mechanical logic of cause. It is to understand that life does not unfold randomly or rigidly but poetically, guided by the rhythm of symbolic intelligence. When you start reading the signs through this lens, you realize that existence is not a chain of reactions, but a symphony of relationships. Meaning is the music that connects each note, and in that harmony, you recognize that nothing happens by chance. Everything occurs with purpose, even when that purpose cannot yet be named. Awareness is the lens through which the hidden order of life comes into focus. The universe is constantly communicating, offering signs, patterns, and synchronicities that reveal deeper truths about your path. Yet most of the time, these messages pass unnoticed, not because they are absent, but because consciousness is clouded by distraction, judgment, and noise. Awareness is not something to acquire, it is the natural state of being before the mind becomes consumed by thought. As awareness expands, perception sharpens, and what once seemed accidental begins to glow with significance. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, not because the world has changed, but because you have begun to see. Life reflects your level of consciousness. When you are asleep to yourself, everything appears random, fragmented, and confusing. You move through experiences as if separate from them, unable to discern the deeper thread connecting events. But as awareness deepens, you begin to notice patterns emerging, similar lessons repeating, familiar emotions resurfacing, recurring symbols calling your attention. These repetitions are not coincidence. They are the universe's way of ensuring that you do not miss the message meant for your evolution. The moment you become truly present, you begin to understand that life has always been speaking in a language you are finally ready to hear. Awareness is the decoder because it bridges the seen and the unseen. It reveals the correspondence between your inner vibration and outer experience. When your consciousness is dense, cluttered with worry or resistance, reality mirrors that confusion through chaos and stagnation. But when you bring stillness to your perception, clarity emerges both within and without. The same circumstances that once felt heavy begin to unfold with purpose. Awareness transforms reaction into recognition. It allows you to interpret life symbolically rather than literally. Every person becomes a mirror, every situation a message, every challenge a lesson in disguise. To cultivate awareness is to practice observation without attachment. It is the art of seeing without immediately labeling, analyzing, or resisting what appears. This neutral seeing dissolves distortion and allows truth to surface. When you observe your own emotions and thoughts with compassion instead of identification, you create space between the observer and the observed. In that space, insight arises. You begin to perceive the subtle energy behind situations, the emotional currents, the karmic echoes, the synchronicities weaving through time. Awareness turns experience into revelation, showing that nothing in your life is meaningless. The clearer your awareness becomes, the more gracefully you navigate existence. You no longer chase signs out of fear or interpret every coincidence with desperation. Instead, you trust that meaning reveals itself in the right moment. Awareness does not force understanding, it allows it to unfold. You start to sense that the universe operates through precision, that everything you encounter arrives as a reflection of your current state of consciousness. When you are in harmony, life feels fluid, guided, and effortless. When you are in conflict, life mirrors that tension, urging you toward inner alignment. Awareness is illumination. It reveals that your life is not a random sequence of unrelated events, but a living dialogue between your soul and the world. The more conscious you become, the more you realize that every experience carries a vibration that speaks directly to your evolution. Awareness allows you to read this vibration, to feel the subtle connections between your thoughts, emotions, and destiny. It teaches you that meaning is not found by searching outward, but by awakening inward. Life's messages were never hidden. They were simply waiting for you to open your eyes and see that the universe has always been whispering in the language of awareness. Stillness is not the absence of movement, but the presence of clarity. Beneath the constant chatter of the analytical mind lies a deeper intelligence, one that perceives through silence rather than reasoning. When the mind is noisy, intuition cannot be heard. Its voice is delicate, easily drowned by the storm of thought and comparison. But when you become still, the layers of mental noise begin to dissolve, revealing a quiet current of guidance that has always been there. This stillness is not passive. It is receptive, like a calm lake reflecting the truth without distortion. It is through this inner quiet that the wisdom of the soul begins to speak. The analytical mind seeks control. It dissects, judges, and measures, trying to predict and explain everything it encounters. But intuition belongs to a different realm, one beyond logic, born from the timeless intelligence of consciousness itself. It doesn't arrive through effort, but through openness. When you surrender the need to calculate every outcome, the deeper knowing beneath thought rises naturally, carrying insights that feel effortless yet profoundly accurate. Stillness becomes the channel through which the universe whispers its direction, a sacred space where clarity replaces confusion and trust replaces fear. In stillness, time slows, the rush of urgency fades and perception expands. You begin to notice details that once went unseen: the texture of air, the rhythm of your breath, the subtle energy within moments. This heightened sensitivity is not a form of escape, but a return to presence. The mind, when quiet, becomes a vessel rather than a barrier. You no longer impose meaning, you receive it. Intuitive guidance does not shout, it arrives as a nudge, a feeling, a quiet recognition that needs no justification. The heart understands immediately what the mind would take hours to analyze. This state of still awareness allows life to guide you rather than the other way around. The universe does not withhold answers, it simply waits for your stillness to match its frequency. When you are constantly thinking, planning, and worrying, you exist in resistance to that guidance. The energy of striving blocks the natural flow of insight. But when you soften, when you release the compulsion to force clarity, the answers arise organically, not from the mind's struggle, but from the soul's alignment. What once felt uncertain begins to reveal its purpose in quiet, undeniable ways. Stillness is the language of higher intelligence. It is where intuition and synchronicity intertwine, where you begin to feel rather than think your way through life. The more you cultivate it, the more life begins to unfold with effortless coherence. You stop chasing signs and start allowing them to appear. You realize that silence itself is communicative, that guidance often comes in pauses, delays, and the gentle unfolding of time. Stillness teaches patience, showing that true understanding does not rush, it ripens when the mind steps aside. In that inner quiet, you reconnect with the essence of who you are: consciousness before thought, awareness before identity. From this state, Intuition flows like light through clear water, unfiltered by fear or expectation. The still mind is not empty, it is full of knowing. Every moment of stillness deepens your attunement to life's rhythm, aligning you with the wisdom that orchestrates all things. The more you dwell in this silent awareness, the more you realize that the universe is never silent. It has always been speaking, waiting for you to be still enough to listen. Life becomes luminous when you begin to sense that every event, every encounter, every repetition is part of a greater dialogue. What once appeared as coincidence begins to shimmer with intention. The random becomes rhythmic, the ordinary turns sacred. Synchronicity is the threshold where this transformation occurs, the place where existence reveals itself not as a chain of mechanical events, but as a living conversation with the cosmos. Through synchronicity, you come to realize that life is not speaking at you but with you. The world responds to your inner state with astonishing precision, as though consciousness and creation are engaged in an eternal exchange of meaning. This dialogue does not unfold through words but through symbols, timing and resonance. A repeated number, a chance meeting, a phrase overheard at the perfect moment. These are the universe's languages. They carry messages too subtle for reason but unmistakable to intuition. When you learn to listen, you begin to sense that existence itself is participatory, that reality bends toward awareness, meeting you exactly where your consciousness stands. The cosmos is not distant or indifferent. It mirrors your vibration with impeccable fidelity. What you emit in thought and emotion returns to you through experience, not as punishment or reward, but as reflection. Life becomes a sacred mirror showing you what you most need to see. Recognizing this shifts your entire way of being. You no longer wander through life as a bystander, but move as a participant in a vast, intelligent orchestration. When synchronicity appears, it is as if the veil between seen and unseen grows thin, and the invisible hand of order briefly reveals its presence. The universe speaks through coincidence not to impress, but to awaken. It reminds you that you are not separate from the whole, that the same intelligence animating galaxies pulses within your own consciousness. The dialogue deepens as you trust it, as you begin to respond not with skepticism, but with awareness. To live in dialogue with mystery is to live in humility. It requires surrendering the need to analyze every occurrence and instead approaching life as a sacred exchange. You offer attention, life offers meaning. You offer trust, life offers timing. The ego resists this dialogue because it cannot control it. Mystery cannot be conquered, only communed with. The analytical mind seeks explanation, but the awakened heart seeks relationship. When you open yourself to that relationship, the world becomes animated with intelligence. Every delay, every detour, every unexpected meeting feels like a message written in the language of eternity. Synchronicity also calls for discernment. Not every event is a sign, and not every coincidence holds symbolic weight. But when meaning strikes with undeniable clarity, when something within you recognizes the truth of the moment, that is the pulse of mystery speaking directly to your awareness. These moments feel charged, luminous, infused with an invisible thread of connection that transcends reason. They remind you that existence is not a series of accidents, but a choreography too vast for the human mind to grasp. What you call mystery is not the absence of understanding, but the presence of something greater than understanding. In living dialogue with the cosmos, you become both listener and participant. You begin to sense that life is not unfolding to you, but through you, that consciousness and creation are forever intertwined. Synchronicity becomes the sacred grammar of that relationship, the way the universe writes love letters to your awareness. To recognize it is to remember that you belong to something infinite. The mystery does not seek to be solved, It seeks to be experienced. And once you begin to listen, you realize the conversation was never one-sided. The universe has been speaking all along, waiting for you to answer with presence. And so, to recognize synchronicity is to awaken to the living intelligence woven through every breath of existence. Life ceases to be a sequence of disconnected events and becomes a sacred dialogue between your soul and the cosmos, a language written in symbols, patterns, and perfect timing. The more you listen, the more you understand that nothing is random and nothing is lost. Every encounter, every silence, every coincidence carries a message guiding you toward alignment with your highest self. When you begin to trust this conversation, the universe no longer feels distant or indifferent. It becomes intimate, responsive, and alive. You stop asking for signs and start realizing that you are the sign, that consciousness itself is the bridge between the visible and the unseen. Mystery no longer feels like something to solve, but something to live with reverence. In the end, synchronicity reminds you that you are not moving through the universe. The universe is moving through you. And when you meet it in awareness, every moment becomes a revelation. Every experience a whisper of the infinite, reminding you that you were never separate from its rhythm, only waiting to remember the language of your own divine connection.